The positivity spreader. There are two main ways through which we can take advantage of being liked because others associate us with great feelings: positivity and compliments. The cliché stands true. Positivity pays off. In our modern world, there are a lot of unpleasant people, and most people are too absorbed in their own muck to be cheerful to others. You'd be surprised how effective staying in a good mood, putting on a happy face, praising others, and acting positive is. In fact, there's a term for the contagious power of positivity: emotional contagion. This was discovered by Stanley Schachter in 1959 and describes how emotions spread from person to person, both good and bad. Emotions spread like germs or yawns. When you're happy, people around you become happy. We all infect each other with our emotions if we're not careful. And of course, people enjoy being happy, so they will naturally want to be around the causes of their happiness. They would rather not be dragged into other people's problems and have to listen to various personal tragedies. People will associate positive feelings with you and subconsciously want to spend time around you. It's the brain's way of telling them to continue producing endorphins. For instance, suppose you brought donuts to every meeting you attended in the office. People will quickly begin to welcome your presence regardless of the meeting, and they won't even realize that it may be because of the food instead of your shining personality. Eventually, they'll just want you around, period. There's nothing wrong with that, as long as that's where it ends, and they use the donuts as an opportunity to discover your charm and wit. Second, we all know that compliments make us more charming. Most people don't receive compliments on a daily or even weekly basis. By giving someone even a shallow or cursory compliment, you might be 100% of their compliments for the entire week. This isn't something that will go unnoticed. Compliment them on something shallow if you must, their personality or their opinion. Pay attention especially to compliments you can pay in recognizing something that someone has put effort into. Just put someone in a position to say thank you. But there's a deeper level beyond mere flattery that benefits you even more. It's called spontaneous trait transference. John Skowronski in 1998 coined this term and argued that people will associate to you the compliments and positive adjectives you give to them. If you call someone generous and kind, they will associate you with those traits as well. No, there is no logical connection, just a simple, unconscious association. So give compliments more, and it's a win-win situation for you. Shut up and let them talk. The final piece of the puzzle in creating a subconscious longing for your presence is the age-old piece of advice, likely popularized by Dale Carnegie and his famous book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. Much of his advice is now derided as common sense, even though the very reason it's deemed so obvious is because of his books. Perhaps one of his best pieces of advice was simply to get people to talk or even brag about themselves, because this will make them enjoy conversing with you. He was quoted as saying, "You can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you." Consequently, this is one of the most bandied about pieces of conversation advice. It turns out that Carnegie was correct, right down to the biological level. A 2012 study, conducted by neuroscientists Diana Tamier and Jason Mitchell at Harvard University, entitled "Disclosing Information About the Self is Intrinsically Rewarding," found that our urge to share personal information with others is one of the most fundamental and powerful parts of being human. Brain images showed that sharing information about ourselves triggers the same sensations in our brains that we experience when we eat food and have sex, two behaviors that we are biologically compelled to do. Thus, it seems we are biologically compelled to share and communicate our thoughts. One method that the researchers used to determine how much the participants valued being able to talk about themselves was to offer a modest financial incentive to anybody who would answer questions about other people instead. Some of the questions involved casual subjects about hobbies and personal tastes, while others were about personality traits such as intelligence, curiosity, or aggression. The researchers found that many of the participants were willing to pass up on the money, preferring the rewarding feelings of self-disclosure over financial gain. In fact, the average participant willingly gave up between 17% and 25% of their possible earnings just so that they could reveal personal information. Then, they used a functional magnetic resonance imaging scanner, fMRI, to observe what parts of the brain were most excited when the subjects were talking about themselves. Again, they found a correlation between self-disclosure and heightened activity in brain regions belonging to the mesolimbic dopamine system. Again, the same region that's associated with the rewarding and satisfying feeling we get from food, money, and sex. It even happens when we speak about ourselves without anyone listening to us. That means that each party in a conversation or social setting is highly incentivized to talk about themselves from a neurochemical perspective. Dale Carnegie was, in fact, correct. How can we utilize this knowledge for our social success? Talking about yourself to some extent is natural, both biologically and within the flow of a conversation. It's estimated that some 40% of what we say relates to expressing our own thoughts and feelings, and that's because it is highly rewarding to do so. So, change that ratio. The most important step for most will be to start imposing limits on themselves. Yes, it feels good to talk about yourself, as the studies have shown, but when you do so, you're depriving others of the space and time to talk about themselves, and in the end, the goal is to make yourself more likable, not necessarily to feel better about social interaction. Be curious about others, ask them questions that give them the opportunity to brag, and generally let the conversation focus on them. Concentrate on their strengths and assist them in painting themselves in a positive light. Be a good listener and encourage them to continue talking about themselves. When's the last time you asked someone 5 questions in a row without interrupting or interjecting with your own anecdote? What about 10 questions? This is the exact type of interaction that feels good to people that we routinely deny them because we can't resist our own pleasure of sharing. This has been The Science of Likability: 60 Evidence-Based Methods to Radiate Charisma, Make a Powerful Impression, Win Friends, and Trigger Attraction. Written by Patrick King, narrated by Russell Newton. Copyright 2019 by Patrick King. Production copyright by Patrick King.